Serious people who went missing. What happened? I walked out of my life when I came home to find another man in my bed with my girlfriend. Spent a year hitchhiking. No missing persons report. No one looked for me. No one missed me. Damn man. Really sorry to hear that. I was about 6 years old. One day I was playing outside. There's a petting zoo about 4 kilometers away from where we lived, and I guess I decided to go there. So I did. By myself. Barefooted. In my pajamas. When I got there, the manager found out I was alone and had reached my parents by phone. I don't actually remember much of it, but it's pretty hilarious. This reinforces my belief that children are basically just tiny drunk people. So, back when I was in Boy Scouts, my troop lost me. Twice. In the same night. While I was still in my tent. This is not an exaggeration. The story is thus. We were at Camp Decorah, in Iowa. We had the idea to go and perform a raid on the counselors' tents/cabins. I, however, was feeling ill. So I specifically said, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to sleep. They acknowledged this. Expressed regret that I was not coming along. And went to have their fun. They have their fun. They retreat into the wood line. Then they take a head count. I am not in the head count. They expect me to be in the head count. Because they forgot. So. Now. There is a missing camper. The entire camp is set to searching for me. Sometime during this, a guy from my troop decides to, get this, check the tents. I am in my tent. As I should be. So he goes to report that I am found. I go to the bathroom during this time. Someone comes back to the camp and checks my tent. I am in the bathroom. So I am not in my tent. I am now missing again. I get found sooner this time. Undefined. When I was 4, I got lost in a city and was rescued by what my dad thought was a gang. We had dinner in Chinatown with another family. 5 kids in all. Crossing the street after dinner. We were holding hands in a big chain. My older sibling let go. When the light changed and everyone crossed, I stayed on the sidewalk. I was looking through a window into a barber shop where some huge guy was having his head shaved. Can still picture the scene. When I finally looked around, everyone was gone. I started to cry. A group of teenagers approached and asked if I was lost. I said yes. A tall kid hoisted me into his shoulders and started down the block. Other kids split up and went in different directions. We rounded a corner and I saw my dad. He turned white and ran toward us. The kid lowered me to the ground. A few other kids were there. They stood around awkwardly while the tall kid explained what happened to my dad. My dad, not a demonstrative guy, flung himself at the kid and hugged him. My mom appeared and picked me up. Years later, my dad told me he saw the same group of kids hanging around when he first parked in the city that evening and was suspicious that they were a gang. He was embarrassed and tried to be less judgmental after that. Wish I could thank those guys. This was a long time ago. That was actually really smart to put you on his shoulders. Sounds like a pro in the matter of recently lost children. I had a 12-day period of dissociative amnesia while I was in the US Air Force. I was doing laundry one Sunday night while waiting to start extra cleaning duty. I woke up 12 days later to my supervisor shaking me awake in my dorm room. No one saw me for those 12 days. No one heard from me. I was not a recluse. I was extremely outgoing and easily noticed. How I vanished for 12 days is amazing. Editing this to not have to reply to everyone. I was considered AWOL. Got an article 15 out of it. Was medically separated with a 25,000 severance and told by the U.S. Air Force psychiatrist that I was useless to the U.S. Air Force. I couldn't explain it. And through every pill I was prescribed and some therapy. They couldn't unlock my brain. It's said that it does not happen to people who are in their older 20s. But it did. It happened the once. My brain scan showed that the hole everyone has is larger in yours kind of thing. I never looked into it, as I really don't want to know if I went to France and killed people as a transvestite. Or just peeped off for 2 weeks. I had no reason to desert. I was in for over 6 years at that point. I'd been to PSAB Saudi, South Korea, France, Spain, and was in Germany at the time. I've peeping loved my time enlisted and would do it again. Please read the comments to see that I was a good Ariman and would not have deserted. I'd imagine talking your way out of being declared AWOL or a deserter was difficult. It is only unauthorized absence until 30 days possess, then it's desertion. Close. But not quite. Less than 30 days. Unauthorized absence. More than 30 days. AWOL. Desertion can be any time frame. It merely requires intent to stay away permanently. If you leave for 60 days and intend to return, you're not a deserter. If you're gone for 10 days, and change your name with the hope that they'll never find you, you are a deserter. Source: I was in the brig for going AWOL. Also, I guess this probably helps. My high school American football team had an away game in a somewhat sketchy city. Bus took the team back to high school afterwards. I was too young to drive and I was grounded and had my phone taken away. I waited at the school for an hour and a half, but my parents never came to pick me up. So I started the 4-mile walk back to my house carrying all my pads and school books. While I was walking back, my mom showed up and I wasn't there. She panicked and found the coach and told him. My coach sent a group text to the entire team asking if anyone knew where I was. Came to school the next day and everyone thought I had missed the bus and gotten lost. It ended up being a team joke for the rest of the year. Bonus: my parents never took my phone away again undefined. My mom was visiting my dad in the hospital. However, she neglected to tell me that she was going to visit him or might be late picking me up. Yes. I could have probably asked my coach to call her, but somewhere in my conniving teenage mind I must have wanted to punish my mom for taking my phone away. I'm amazed no one asked WTF was your mom doing that, she was an hour and a half late picking you up. That was my thought. There have been times I've waited for someone. And if they were that late, I left. I'm not gonna sit there for 24 hours just in case. I went sleepwalking one night when I was 10 years old. Unlocked the front door and went for a stroll through the neighborhood. I woke up a few hours later in the middle of the street. Barefooted. In a cul-de-sac I've never been in before. Scared the bejesus out of me. Ended up running through the streets until I found my way back home. My parents had been sweeping bricks looking all over for me. They put a lock on my door after that so I couldn't go for any more midnight strolls. My cousin once disappeared while sleepwalking. Her parents woke up in the night and she wasn't in bed. They searched the streets for her but nothing, so they eventually called the police. The police asked them if they had checked inside the house. They hadn't. She had fallen asleep in the hall closet. Ahaha. This is very similar to a family friend of mine. They had an elderly babysitter over for a young child. The kid rolled around in the night. Managed to wedge himself between the wall and mattress. And bring blankets over top. The babysitter freaked. And they spent hours searching. Until the police finally came in and searched the bed. I climbed down between the wall and my bed once when I was maybe 6 or 7. I was tired, so I took a nap. Apparently my mom had been searching for me for quite some time and was about to call the police when she found me. She yelled at me a little bit but just told me she was glad I was okay. When I was 3 or 4 years old, I was playing hide and go seek with my brothers and I hid in a laundry basket underneath the clothes. I ended up falling asleep and they couldn't find me for like an hour. My parents were in hysterics and were about to call the police when I woke up and nonchalantly walked into the kitchen. I pulled this type of thing often, so my parents weren't that mad. I was hiking to see the volcanic eruption back in 2010, the one before all the grounded flights. On the way back I got separated from my group. We were about 8 to 10. One of which was a very good friend of mine. Anyway, I tend to walk pretty fast, especially on my way down from a mountain. This was in March in Iceland, so it gets dark pretty soon and fast. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have a torch on me and in maybe half an hour everything went pitch black. I had chosen to walk the same path as the one I went up. This was extremely stupid of me, as that path was about 5 meters away from a 15-meter drop into a canyon. Not only that, but the path was beside a waterfall. Waterfalls tend to have a lot of mist coming from them. Said mist goes onto the path. And because this is March in Iceland, and on a mountain it's about -5°C without wind chill, that mist turns to basically an ice skating rink on a 45 angle. That was an experience. I had been lost for about 5 hours. He didn't turn up until I got down from the mountain. But I was one of 20 that got lost that Saturday, 2 of whom died. Icelandic SAR groups were quite busy that time. I work as a seasonal backcountry ranger here in the US. If there is one takeaway that I hope people gain from your post, it is that you should always carry a source of light with you whenever you go for a hike. Never assume that you will make it back to civilization before dark. And never plan to rely on another person's flashlight. This also mildly to severely obnoxious to that other person. Those cell phone flashlight apps don't count. You want a decent flashlight that is going to provide you with enough light to see well, but also communicate your position to rescuers. Headlamps are even better, as they are much less cumbersome to use and carry. Undefined. Once when my grandfather was watching my younger sister and I decided to take a shower and didn't think to tell anyone. I took my leisurely shower, and when I came out no one was in the house. I went outside to see if maybe they were out there. It was summer, so reasonable to spend the evening in the yard. It turned out, my grandfather and sister had alerted the neighbors that I had gone missing, and the entire neighborhood was out looking for me. It wasn't even that long of a shower. It's annoying how much of an overreaction people can have. 1999. In Germany at the time, and friend and I had gone to the Love Parade in Berlin. Was a crazy weekend. We were both 20 and had no plans other than just getting to Berlin. We partied the entire long weekend. One night we slept in an alleyway. One night we slept in the park. And the last night we met a cool guy at a party to let us crash at his hotel. So, finally getting to the missing part. On Sunday the train station was insane, as like 1 million people were trying to leave the city. Friend and I spoke almost no German. We had already bought our tickets for the return trip and had both used the last of our DM currency pre-euro for breakfast that morning. We ended up getting separated in the train station. I looked at my ticket and was at the right track at the right time. Showed someone that worked there my ticket and pointed at the train. Got a nod as it was so loud in there. Got on the train. On the train there were like 1.5 trillion people. Every seat filled. People in the aisles. People in the bathroom. People between the trains. A couple minutes late, the train finally took off. Now, We were going to a school that summer that was about 2 hours south of Berlin. I had fallen asleep on the floor of the train huddled between a bunch of other hungover ravers. Then I noticed that I had been on the train for almost 4 hours. Was freaking out that I had passed my stop. Nope. Train was going west and we weren't even that far away from Cologne. I freak out. Get off at the next stop to try and figure out how to get home. I am sitting at this tiny train station in the middle of nowhere, Germany. Not speaking almost any German. No money. No contact information for where I was staying. And still hungover from partying all week. I ended up looking at different train schedules on the wall and pretty much guessed which trains would lead me back to my city. The train that I needed wasn't coming for like 5 hours. Because I had no money, I couldn't buy another ticket. In the first train I found this empty conference-like room on the train and hid in a dark corner. Got off somewhere when I was getting too nervous about getting caught. Waited for another train for a couple hours. This train I hid in the bathroom. Knock knock. Ticket person was knocking. I decided that I would just jump in the deep end and open the door and explain what was going on. As I spoke almost no German and he spoke almost no English. He was just super pissed. Ended up not calling the police or even writing me a ticket, but made me get out at the next stop. The next stop was some train station that was so small it didn't even have a roof. Ended up sleeping on the grass behind the train station as the train that I needed wasn't coming until 5:30 am. In the morning I again pulled the riding without a ticket scam. This was a double-decker train and I was on the top and watching the both entrances to the car. When the ticket person came in and went downstairs first, thank God I went to the other side and went downstairs when he came upstairs. Finally got to my city at like 7 am. Almost 24 hours after my friend and I got separated. Got back to the dorm and friend was just sitting on the bed in a towel after having just taken a shower. Was like, where the beep were you? I was about to tell someone you were missing. Not sure if I am glad he didn't tell anyone I was missing or pissed that he didn't. Haha. We are still best friends now 15 years later. When I was a young lad, my brother and I used to go to this gymnastics play area. They had trampolines. Those bars you swing around. And a tightrope over a pit full of pieces of foam. My brother and I decided to play hide and seek. I hid first. About an hour later. The place is closing. My mum asks my brother where I am. He says we're playing hide and seek and I've hidden really well. 3 hours later. The staff have locked all of the doors and phoned the police. My mum was in a blind panic. My brother had given up on finding me and was bouncing on a trampoline. The staff were frantically tearing the place apart looking for me. My brother got bored of trampolining, so decided to play in the foam pit. He jumped in and heard a loud ouch. I climbed out of the foam and said, "Did I win?" We never went back to that place. Edited. Misspelled brother. Damn. You are dedicated to the art of hide and seek. I was at a college house party. I went there with several friends. I didn't have a cell phone yet, managed to hold out until 2004. Our dorm rooms came with landlines at the time. I ended up going home with a guy and hooking up with him. Woke up the next day. Checked my email on his computer and found a ton of frantic emails from my friends. They actually thought that I'd been abducted, roofied or killed myself. I was very depressed at the time. They filed a missing person report on me with campus security and several friends were searching for me in the woods. TLDR. My friends thought it was more likely that I'd gotten kidnapped than gotten laid. Undefined. I'm sure you're thankful you have friends that care about you that much. Even if they might overreact. Definitely. We still laugh about that incident years later. I drank too much. Left my buddy's house to get my phone out of his car. Woke up several hours later with about 5 cops standing on me yelling at me to quit resisting. Turns out I had wandered through 2 gates, a front porch and into his neighbor's basement. When the cops showed up, I was snuggling with his neighbor's 2 Rottweilers on their basement floor. Reminds me of Lethal Weapon 3. Now, they said I was lucky they didn't eat me. I was also lucky I didn't get shot. This took place in a small town near East St. Louis, pretty rough neighborhood. I was arrested for felony breaking and entering. Luckily, the cops ended up being cool and understanding. My buddy's elderly neighbors were just freaked out by a drunk, naked white guy sleeping with their dogs in their basement. My buddies had no idea where I was until the next afternoon when I called him from jail. Luckily, he was a good dude and bailed me out. All the charges were dropped. When I walked up to the attorney and judge at court, they all pretty much made fun of me and just asked if I learned my lesson.